Let's talk about some heartbreaking news. Let's talk about some heartbreaking news courtesy of Heist and Nobiety. I'm sure some of you guys are aware already, and some of the news has already been shared out there via social media and shit. But it seems like it's now been confirmed that Capital, cult Japanese streetwear brand Capital, has been quietly acquired by LVMH. If you're a fan of Japanese streetwear, if you're a fan of streetwear in general, your heart is breaking right now. Your heart has been broken in two. You're probably crying like I was when I heard the news. And honestly, this is likely the end of Capital that we know. The Capital that we all fell in love with has probably died. And whatever we're going to get now is not going to be anywhere close to what we had before. That's the unfortunate thing. Because when these sort of acquisitions happened, you know, LVMH put up the money, they're going to want to dictate, they're going to want to have a say in how the brand goes and how the brand evolves, what direction they're going. And most likely the direction they go in won't be the direction that we fell in love with, and will eventually lead to the erosion of what we loved and a lesser quality of product. That's just the way it is. The first thing I think of is this: most likely we're going to see an abundance of Capital stores in Europe, most likely. There's a bunch in Tokyo already, but we're probably going to see an abundance of Capital stores in North America and in Europe. We're probably also going to see, which I think is my theory, is we're going to see an abundance of Capital branded clothing, because I feel like they do a really good job. It's almost like Lvmh. They do a really good job at selling you what they sell you without having it overly branded. You know, there's not a lot of, like, you can't find a lot of Capital stuff that says Capital. There's always, like, you know, cool little illustrations and certain colors and smiley faces and whatever, but you rarely see a lot of products that they have on their lineup that say the brand name. So I wouldn't be surprised if one instant thing that we see is an increase in products from Capital that have Capital splayed on them, like jackets that say Capital, bags that say Capital. Like, it's gonna be crazy. An abundance of clothing, abundance of stores, and also you're gonna see a different type of people, you know, featured on their lookbooks. Now a lot of their lookbooks feature a lot of cool people that you may have seen in the store around Tokyo, associated with the streetwear industry. Now you're definitely going to see a lot more like models and shit, and, you know, Gen Z type level kids and shit, to kind of water down the brand and make it kind of accessible, which is really sad. If it doesn't happen, it'll be a miracle, but I think that's the way it's going to go. So let's read the article courtesy of Hypebeast, or sorry, Heist Nobiety. Capital, the cult Japanese clothing brand, has been skirting the mainstream for years, and with luxury conglomerate LVMH come calling, perhaps it's finally headed there. LVMH back investment firm El Catena, no, how you say that? El Caterton has quietly taken a majority stake. That's the really scary part. Not a minority stake, a majority stake in Capital, with shockingly little fanfare. So little, in fact, that the Heist Nobiety is now the first publication to report on the deal, despite it apparently being sealed several months back. It also didn't really entirely come out of nowhere. El Caterton appears to be aligning its purchase of Capital as part of a greater bid to financial inroads in Japan. Note that LVMH and El Caterton don't own Capital, however, I'll explain. So the issue of this as well, I feel like they done this on purpose. I feel like this was quietly acquired because they knew if it was done in a very public way with a press release on WWD and Business of Fashion, it would have led to a lot of backlash. It's already leading to backlash. I think the thread on this on the r/Japanese streetwear subreddit is already quite high. So I think the fans are really upset. So I think it's going to hurt them anyway in the short term. Maybe long term it'll be okay, but I think the cult fans, the fans of the brand from when it was launched in the late 80s, early 90s, are going to be really upset. The fans that jumped on it when the Sun took over in the early 2000s are going to be super upset. The fans that jumped on it when A$AP Rocky and Ian Connor and all those guys at A$AP Bari are wearing it are going to be super upset, because you know for sure this is the beginning of the end. Beginning of the end of Capital. It's certain. There's no way this brand survives and it's still the brand that we all fell in love with. It's impossible. It continues. Capital is one of the first widely recognized brands to infuse real deal craftsmanship with serious steez. While peers from like Lvmh specialize in faithful workwear reproductions, Capital operates more in a realm of blue collar tinge whimsy, playful enough to exist in a fashion brand, but too serious about the craft to be a mere fashion brand. Yeah, that's probably the best thing you kind of describe about Capital when it comes to this sort of stuff. very playful. I feel like when the Sun took over, I feel like it kind of ramped it up a level, to be honest. I've always liked what they kind of done, but I was a little bit more faithful to the kind of workwear traditions. But I feel like when the Sun kind of took over, there was a lot of like playful twist and shit and cool interpretations of classic silhouettes, you know, pea coats, varsity jackets, race driving jackets, jeans, denims, all that stuff. It's pretty cool. Even the trucker hats, these type of things, they go for fucking buckets. People go crazy over these fucking trucker hats. It continues. It's knowingly goofy trucker hats and skeleton stitched denim as the late 10s crossover to the hit of the streetwear set and their requisite style idols, or your Travis Scotts, your A$AP Rockies. But the genesis of Kaptial's international appeal can be traced to the workwear fixation of the late aughts of menswear. I recall desperately wishing I could afford or fit into a pair of Kaptial's signature Sasco stitched century denim when I saw dudes wearing them on Super Future Forum, where the extent of Kaptial threads dates back to the mid 2007. Yeah, RIP Super Future, by the way. RIP Fifth Dimension. Oh no, Fifth Dimension is still around, I think. No, RIP Fifth Dimension, I don't think that exists anymore. Alright, FUK is still around. Big up everybody that's still posting on FUK. RIP Crooked Tongues Forum. Those were the days, man. It's knowingly goofy. I recall perhaps Kim Jones, perpetually plugged in former Louis Vuitton creative director, felt similarly because he tapped Tashiro Hirata, Kaptial's late founder, and son Kiro for a semi-collaboration as part of LV Spring 2023 collection. Kaptial's Louis Vuitton partnership solely extended to some heavenly patchwork jackets and accessories manufactured by LV and reworked by Kaptial, but it was widely prescient and demonstrating the Kaptial's innate appeal many years before the rest of the fashion world caught on. Now, as we race towards Kaptial's 30th anniversary in 2026, it's perhaps the best known Japanese workwear brand on the planet. In terms of crossover appeal, at least, no contest. Kaptial is simultaneously sold by workwear leading retailers, progressive boutiques, streetwear stores across the globe, and reflective of its far-reaching seasonal collections. I don't think if they're the best known, I wouldn't say they're the best known. I wouldn't even say they're workwear. I think that's a bit limiting. I wouldn't say they're workwear. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's a wrong characterization. I'm trying to think of a bigger Japanese workwear brand, but I can't think of one. But I don't think they're workwear. I wouldn't say they're workwear, personally. Maybe they're the most popular export, maybe second only to probably Needles, maybe, in recent years. But I wouldn't say they're the biggest workwear brand. But anyway, let's continue. These offerings are too vast to sum up in a mere descriptors. A single Kaptial season may include baseball tees, denim motocross jeans, cargo pocketed field shirts, knitted koji style sweaters, flared track pants, Bob Marley button-ups, reversible satin bombers that can transform into pillows. The artisanal country line, famed for its outrageously textured barrow patch denim. There he is, Kaptial legacy, man. And this is also, I think I also found out about Kaptial probably the same time around me when I was getting into fucking Goro's jewelry and shit, and obviously Vism and stuff. So, you know, people that are kind of taking like what he's wearing now. He's wearing a fucking motorcycle jacket that's been redone in basically denim. Those type of like staple jackets and reinterpreting them, or, you know, twisting them how they look and shit, the seams, the materials, washes, finishes, all that sort of stuff I fucking love. And they obsess about this sort of stuff in Japan. They'll spend fucking millions. So they spend a bunch of time, even loads of money, in terms of researching materials, in terms of making figure out what the zips are, buttons, all that sort of shit. I fucking love it. And that's just the start. It continues. The uncharacterizable hippish quirk that defines Kaptial makes it feel especially odd as LVMH investment. This is no mere investment. El Capitan's relatively vague website lists Kaptial under the majority investments tab alongside Birkenstock, Ganni, and APC. Serious, isn't it? Yeah, oh yeah, that skeleton jacket, that did numbers, innit? That skeleton varsity did fucking numbers when that dropped, bro. That did fucking numbers. Let's continue here. It's not entirely clear when LVMH El Capitan took over Kaptial. Their website only lists the year investment as 2024 and the strategy as Asia. The French luxury conglomerate instead maintains a majority stake in Le Capitan, which itself is a majority stake in Kaptial, so it's not quite accurate to say LVMH itself owns Kaptial. Confusing. That's just good business. So LVMH owns Capitan, Capitan owns, yeah, okay, cool. Let's say Capitan isn't so, okay, cool. So no, let's rephrase that. El Capitan isn't solely owned by LVMH, but LVMH does own a portion of Capitan. So by default, LVMH does own Kaptial, which owns, yeah, cool. That generally about Asia seemed odd until I pursued a summer 2024 report from the Private Equity International, which cites a source claiming that Al Caterton sought funds for local country focused financial vehicles for India and Japan. Capital reflects that the latter market. El Caterton appears to seek pet-related investments in regions of interest. A September 2023 announcement of strategic investments in Japan, the veterinary company Whitmore states that El Caterton has a significant experience in building brands in the pet care space across the world. Not super relevant here, except to underscore that the capital investment is likely a part of El Caterton's larger stake in Japan. Okay. It's still strange that the singular label or like a capital will tends to thrive in its own lane will take El Caterton as a majority investor. The reveal of El Caterton as Capital's new boss bummed out a few people on Japanese streetwear subreddit. One of the few outlets discussing the reveal. I get it. The idea of your favorite indie label being snapped up by a big fish sounds like the end of the era, but it's, if any relief, Capital fans, I wouldn't sweat it. No, you have to sweat it, bro. If you're a fan of the brand, you have to be worried, because the whole reason why the brand is amazing as it is because it was quote unquote independently owned. You know, they kept it in the family. The father quote unquote retired, let the son take over, and he took it to another level, you know. So I think if you're a fan of the brand, you're right to be nervous, you're right to be worried, because most likely this is the end. This is the end of the brand that you loved, unfortunately. I hope it's not the case. Hope I'm just, panicking for nothing, but most likely this brand isn't going to survive and isn't going to be the same brand that we all once fell in love with, unfortunately. Firstly, it should be obvious that Capital's play only by its own rules. It's famously difficult among buyers and at least to secure the account with Capital. That is, Capital is very selective with the stores it allows to sell its clothes. The conspicuous lack of capital at certain big time retailers is not because they don't want it. Come on, bro. This writer has to be serious. Do you think they're going to invest money into purchasing a majority stake in a company and they're not going to have a say in where it's sold or how much of the stuff is made? Come on, bro. That's the classic, buying out of a company 101. You get to dictate who they hire. You get to dictate what stores they have, where they launch, what accounts. Like, they get to, it's their company now. It's their brand. Like, they can do what they want with it, unfortunately. Obviously, they have some consideration. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if sometime in the future we're going to hear a report of the son stepping away entirely from the brand, the dad stepping away entirely from the brand, not being associated with it all, and it ends up the same situation like what ended up with fucking Nigo with Bape when IT bought it. Like, it's the end. It's the beginning of the end, unfortunately. Let's just be real. Maybe for European buyers who maybe had no access to connects in Japan, or weren't able to go to Japan to get something, or maybe had to pay through the nose to buy stuff from European accounts, maybe it's going to be good, because most likely you're going to be able to buy Capital, you'd imagine, maybe at a cheaper price. So I'm say cheaper. You'll be able to buy more of it. Let's not say cheaper. I don't think they're going to sell it cheaper. I think whatever price Capital is sold now, at whatever accounts have it, is going to be the same price, because if they can get away with it, why not? You're already used to paying that money. Why would they sell it to you cheaper? But I think you're going to be able to have more access to it. There's going to be more quantities of it, similar to what's happened to Supreme, right? Supreme got investment, and then suddenly the quantities increased exponentially. So I think the same is going to happen to Capital. There's going to be way more SKUs, way more fucking SKUs. Secondly, as crazy as it feels to stick my neck out on a giant multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, El Caterton and Lvmh by extension know how to guide winning brands. Whatever adherence, come on, you comparing this article. Whatever adherence to share prices Birkenstock may have since El Caterton acquisition, its leather sandals are still German made. You comparing what they're doing with Birkenstock? Come on, bro. Come on, man. These big shots know better than to mess with the success that's evidenced by the light touch that Lvmh Luxury Ventures Fund has taken with Amin Leon Dore and now Legacy. I don't think that's the same. When Japanese streetwear brands are not the same as Amin Leon Dore and our Legacy. Like, they kind of exist and are kind of successful based on how hard they are to get, like how hard it is to acquire, based on how little you know about the brand, based on the quality of what you're buying. Like, you can buy a Capital t-shirt and it's gonna last you fucking ages. I think I've got a Capital long sleeve that I haven't even fucking worn, that I've had for fucking maybe more than 10 years. So I think that's the reason why people are kind of drawn to it. When you start, skimping on those type of things, rightfully so, because it costs more money, it's going to affect this appeal. and most likely the diehards who buy it season out aren't going to be into it, and the hype beasts that jumped into it because it's cool are going to realize it's not cool because all the diehards have stopped buying it. So it's going to end up in a weird situation, in a weird place. I'd hate to be wrong, but I think I might be right. But yeah, Kaptial's fucking amazing, man. It's a shame it's not gonna be the same brand that we all know and love now going forward. But hey, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Why should Kaptial be any different? Okay, let's see. Let's see Jake Selbert. Let's see who's right. Let's see who's right. History will basically be our best judge in terms of what happens with Kaptial going forward. But I'm not feeling optimistic about it. I'm not gonna lie, man. When brands like LVMH get involved, when companies buy these small, especially Japanese streetwear brand, like, it's just, you know, it's all roads lead to down. All roads lead to down. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, cool.